Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. Today's topic is going to be morning routine. It's all about what you do, what I do, what successful people do in the morning. And I guess this is inspired by a book a few of the guys have been reading of late. I've started reading it. I'm not finished on it yet, but it's called The Miracle Morning, and it's a very good book. It really takes a lot of great ideas and puts them into something that's very tangible and something you can work with, which is start with your mornings. And they talk about change, and when it comes to like changing your habits and creating new behaviors, one of the key things to changing a behavior is to start with something and try not to do lots of things. In other words, don't try and overhaul your life in one go. Start by changing one part of your life, and then you'll watch it as it starts to work out into other areas. And we're relating this, of course, we're guitar teachers and the business of guitar and teaching, but it's really important that you have the right mindset, the right attitude, and the energy to be able to maintain your business. Because if you take the title of a guitar teacher entrepreneur, you can see it actually covers three things. You've got to be able to play guitar, you've got to be able to teach, and you've got to be able to run a business. So it's a lot of work to do for someone who wants to be a successful teacher. If you're just doing a bit of casual teaching, you teach 10 or 20 students from your home and just cruising, that probably doesn't take too much effort. But if you want to be a really good teacher, you want to run a bigger operation and you want to hit the 6-figure mark and even go beyond that, then you really need to have your energy levels right, and you need to make sure that you set your routine out. And it's one of these things that I've noticed amongst successful people is they're early risers, and there's actually some stats on that which I'll go to in a minute. But first of all, what I'm going to do is just give you a brief outline of what I do, what my morning routine is, and later I'm going to just ask a couple of guys here what their routine is to see if they can give us some ideas as well. So the first thing I do is I get up between 5 and 6. I won't say that I strictly get up at 5 every morning. I aim to get up at 5 when I can, but some mornings, due to whatever meetings, right now it's the evening here, so tonight's going to be a bit later, so in the morning I might get up a little bit later. But I don't go past 6. I'll always be up and out of bed, definitely by 6 a.m. And the idea is, especially here where I live at the moment, is that it's a hot climate, and if you get up past 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it's actually too hot outside to walk in the sun and do things. So you kind of have to get up in that early morning. It's the best time of the morning anyway. But the routine of getting up in the morning, and I've been in and out of these routines, so I know both sides of it. I haven't strictly always been an early riser, especially in the days of playing in bands. It's very difficult when you're getting home at 3 or 4 in the morning to be an early riser. But I know the difference, and I know how it makes me feel and how much more productive I am. But to add to that, what we need to look at is also what you do in that time. So how do you actually plan out your day from the time that you get up? So I'll just give you a quick rundown of what I do. Basically, first thing up, let's say I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'll have a big drink of water, and then I'll go for a walk or a run, or sometimes I'll even do a hard workout. It depends on the morning. I tend to do every second day as a hard workout. So I'll do something like sprinting or reasonable pace jogging on every second day, and then on the opposite days I'll do walking. And that I find that's a good balance. And also I tend to go with how I feel. So if I feel like I've overtrained a little bit, which I'm guilty of before, where I've gone too much, I get all excited, and then I go hard, and then I don't feel good enough to train for a few days. So what I do now is that I do that alternate, and then I know if I go really hard today, then I've got tomorrow that I can do the walk and go easy. So I make sure that I'm exercise is the first thing I do, because if I don't do it then, it's very easy for the day to get away from me and to start to make excuses, and different things come up, different meetings. And I know no one's going to come looking for me at that time of morning. It's too early for most people to come and chase me down. So once I do that and I get home, I've never been big on meditation, and meditation is one of these things that keeps coming up. You see it everywhere. There's lots of research on it now, lots of scientific research that shows that it actually improves the brain. It actually changes the shape of the brain. It activates different areas. It calms areas where basically people who do meditation have less stress, less of those kind of anxiety, depression, so forth. So they found that it actually helps your health in so many ways. These people actually have improved immune systems. I can go on and on, but there's a whole bunch of studies that prove that meditation is very, very beneficial to you. So it's very hard for me to sort of ignore it. But I have to say that I found it a little bit not for me. I thought I'm not really a meditator. It's not something that I don't imagine myself sitting on a mountain and meditating. But as I understood more and more of it, because science interests me, and when I see science and I see facts and things that make sense to me, then I'll say, okay, I'll give it a go. Forget about the rest of it. Let's just look at the science and look at the facts behind it. So what I do now, and I've been doing for a little while, is just 7 minutes of meditation in the morning. So once I get home, I've worked out, I've had a morning shower, I've, had some, I don't even have breakfast actually at that time of morning. I have breakfast usually later. About 9:30 is when I eat breakfast. I don't have it because I'm still not feeling that hungry at that point. I feel more thirsty than anything, so I just drink water. I'm somebody who can get dehydrated easily, so if dehydration is something that you find and you're not aware of, try and get yourself hydrated early, especially in the morning. But the next thing after I do the meditation is then I spend 10 minutes either watching a video or listening to an audio book of someone or something of motivational nature. So it's usually something that's planned, something I've seen or read before, but I need reminders on. So even though when I go out and I do my exercise, I listen to an audio book that I haven't read before, so it's new material. But when I do this 10-minute segment, it's specific where I know I need reminders in this area. I have to keep coming back to whatever it is. So it's about getting me into the right mindset for the day. Once I've done that, then I have a short pump-up session. So it's only a couple of minutes, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes, where I'll listen to 1 or 2 songs that really get me pumped and get me excited for the day, and that's it. Then I'm ready to go. That's my day. Now, a couple of things that I'll add to that, and then I'll try and bring the other guys into it so we can sort of have a little bit of talk about it, see what their ideas are, what they do, whether they do anything at all, whether they have other ideas and strategies that have worked for them. So a couple of other things. If you think about it from a statistical point of view, there was a study done on CEOs. I'm just trying to remember the exact study, but it was something, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'll just give you a rough idea. But it was something like they took the top 20 CEOs in the US across the certain the companies who were rated as the top 20 for whatever reason, whether it was trading stocks or profits, etc. But these were considered the top 20 CEOs. There was only one out of those top 20 that didn't get up before 6 a.m. in the morning, and that particular person got up a little bit later, and it was apparently due to the nature of their position that was the reason. So you can see it's very obvious that getting up early in the morning is a common trait, and they looked at I think there were 2 main traits they found amongst the top CEOs, and the 2 main traits that I remember, there might have been 3, but the 2 that I remember that stuck with me was, one is they got up early in the morning, and number 2 is that they read at least 1 book a week. So they averaged a book a week, and that's what they found amongst these top CEOs. So it makes sense that if you want to be up there and you want to be competitive, so to speak, not necessarily against other people, but if you just want to be up in that company, you need to follow some of the things that they do. You need to look at what they do and say, is there something behind what they do? So getting up early in the morning and reading a book a week is those 2 things, which I would recommend to anyone. That's what I do. It works for me pretty well. I know the times that I haven't done it, and there are times, definitely. I haven't been Mr. Perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I know the difference. It really is black and white, the way I feel. So top CEOs do it. I think this goes without saying, but I'll throw it in anyway. There are no athletes that I can think of. There would be no sports players that I'm sure any of us can think of, in the top levels, that would get out of bed, later than 6 o'clock. Most of them are up very early. They're training hard, and that's what makes the difference. Is they get out of bed, they go hard, and they train hard. And there's a reason they do it in the morning. And that's because when we do it in the morning, it actually sets us up for the day. It makes us feel positive and feel good for the day. And it also makes sure you get it done. So there's no sort of excuse there of, as the day starts to progress, things can get away from you. So one other thing from the Miracle Morning that he's mentioned, which is interesting, and this is something that I hadn't really thought about, so I'll just throw this out because it'll be interesting to see what the other guys say about this as well. But he talked about, I've always had this idea that I need my 8 hours of sleep every night. And if I don't get my 8 hours, I feel bad, I feel tired. And he actually goes a little bit against that, and he said that you can actually survive on less sleep. Now, lots of studies show that that is not the case, that without the sleep, we actually drain and get tired. So I don't know where I stand on this. It might be something worth trying, but he's quite confident about his position on it, and I think he's got some people who back him on it, in that it's all about your mindset and it's about the way that you see it. If you get good quality sleep and you go to bed, he talks about going to bed with your a positive thing in mind and a positive idea of when you're going to wake up. So let's say you go to bed at midnight. If you are somebody who's staying up to midnight and you want to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, that's only 5 hours sleep. His idea, his concept is to think about getting up in the morning positively. Don't think about it negatively. So don't start telling yourself at 11:30, oh, I'm going to be so tired in the morning, oh, no way, I can't get up, it's just going to be so hard. He says to do the opposite and tell yourself, no problem, 5 hours is all I need, I'm going to feel great, I'm going to feel refreshed, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to have an excellent sleep, and at 5 a.m. I'm off and running. Okay, so that's where I stand on it. So I might just jump to Ben Messenger. Ben, what's your situation as far as your mornings concerned? How do you, and we can go beyond the mornings, but let's just start with the mornings and then we'll talk about the rest of the day. But what's your routine generally?
Perfect day is up at 6. Make the wonderful wife-to-be a cup of tea. She's a school teacher, so she's up and doing her hair and stuff at that time anyway. And normally, quick brush the teeth and out to the gym.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I know you go to the gym a fair bit, so you do that most days? Yeah?
At least 3-4 times a week. What I've had to do, which is better, I've had to be there for 6:30 when they open, purely because if I leave it any later, I hit all the traffic going back home. So let's say I get there for 7, sounds silly, but I know for a fact I won't be home till gone 9 o'clock because of the traffic. Whereas if I can get there for 6:30, be done for 7:15, I can be home for easy. It's only 20 minutes away, but I can be home for 8 o'clock at the latest. Yep. Anything later, you can get back.
And do you notice a difference if you don't go to the gym for a few days, which will happen obviously at certain times, especially around this time of year, Christmas? Yeah. Do you notice the difference?
I was going to say that's the perfect morning, but let's flip it round. I've noticed, oddly enough, the later I get up, the earlier I get tired. And if I've not trained, that's what I know, the whole endorphins thing and the way that the brain works in terms of you being more mentally aware and mentally awake. Definitely, if I've done, the typical sleep until 9:30, 10 o'clock when you didn't mean to, by 8:30, 9 o'clock that night, I'm tired, which is bizarre, even though I might have had 8 or 9 hours sleep. And I hate it when that happens because I know what's coming for the rest of the day.
It's amazing, isn't it? I know exactly what you're talking about. If you get up and you train hard in the morning, get up early and go hard, you just feel great for the day, and sometimes right into late in the evening, till 11 o'clock, you can still be buzzing. Like it's 8:20 p.m. here. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, and I don't feel any less now than I did, this morning. I feel, just as energetic. And I know that if I hadn't done that, if I had sort of slept in and not gone out and done some exercise, I wouldn't feel like I did a sprint session this morning. So I went hard this morning. So you would think, you would expect to get to this time of day and think, I'm really tired now, muscles are sore, that whole thing. But no, it's actually the opposite. Yeah. So any other tips that you've got about?
It was more a question, because on the days that I don't, you said the exact phrase that I use: the day runs away with you. Before you know it, I've got to be teaching at 2:30, 3 in the afternoon, and I feel like I've got nothing done, and it's tough because it's too late. It's time to go to work. I know it's easy to say just do it, but do you have any tips for for doing it more? Because I think we know you can't sustain it every single day of your life, unless you're an exceptional person like your athletes, those sort of guys. But is there any tips for making sure you do it more often than not?
I think one of the things that's made a big difference for me over the years is reading and putting into your mind, because we have this inbuilt situation in ourselves where we we like to assimilate. Basically, it's the human condition, is that we want to assimilate. We go back to the tribe mentality. If you're too cocky, or you're too this, or you're too that, you will upset the tribe, and before you know it, the tribe will oust you. For most of our tribal history, being ousted from the tribe meant certain death. Survival was very, very difficult as an individual. So that's why people feel separation anxiety. That's why we have this. All of us go through it, no matter how tough and cool we think we are. We all suffer from anxiety, separation anxiety in certain respects. We might be a little in certain situations. It might be a lot. If we someone that we've been dating for a long while and we break up, it hurts. Even if we don't like the person, even if we hate the person, we still go through that separation anxiety. And you see it all the time. People who put up with abusive partners. So the idea is that when we're, and the point that I'm making here is that when we get to doing certain things, we look to the people around us, and we look to the people who we associate with to decide what we're going to do. And sometimes it's not even conscious, it's subconscious. So the best way to change that is to get around people who are doing the stuff that you want to be doing, and you will find it's a lot easier. So if for example, if you want to be build yourself up like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, hang out with people like that. Make friends with those guys, because then you will start to get into it. If you want to be wealthy, hang around people who are earning more than you, because you'll start to get into it. You'll start to think and behave and act and do things that will get you doing what they do. So it's actually the easiest way to do things, and it actually happens in the opposite direction as well. When we hang out with people who are lazy, or overeat, heavy drinkers, smokers, whatever, it's very easy to fall into the patterns that those people have, and to become a part of that. And this has even been shown in studies where obesity, apparently obesity is contagious. It's really contagious. So if you think about things where the example I was going to give is, and they showed this in the doco that they did on it, where the influence of people around you. So let's, for instance, you're at a restaurant and you're trying to eat healthy and eat well, and then the people on the table are all ordering dessert, and they say, "Oh, come on, Ben, you can have something. Have something. Don't just you don't need to starve yourself." And you're looking at the people sitting at the table, and they're all obese. They're all very overweight and shouldn't be eating that cake, and they're encouraging you to eat it because that makes them feel better about it. If you're sitting there and you're not doing it and you're not a part of it, then that makes them feel bad. So this is I think getting yourself around the right people is really important, and I think it's something that most people don't think a lot about. They don't actively choose who they spend time with. They tend to just spend time with the same people out of habit more than anything. Hopefully that helps. Is that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it doesn't mean, sometimes the initial thought on that sometimes is that we have to give up those friends who have been good friends to us. We know they're heading towards an early heart attack, diabetes. We know that all they do is complain about things in the news. Everything that comes out of their mouth is negative. We know all that, but then we go back to think, I've got a couple of friends like this, and I don't actually associate with them that much, but they still go back to our teenage years, or in my 20s or whatever, and think about the good times we had, and remember time and how they were so positive and confident, and now I look at them and think, wow, things have really changed for you, because they've actually gotten worse and worse and worse. The same as people get obese, it starts from the mind. They start becoming more and more and more negative, to where they're absolutely cynical about everything, and all they do is complain about everything, and it's very hard, and they see you or me, when you try and keep things up and positive and talk about books you're reading or seminars that you can, they think, oh, you're just a sucker, Dave. You're just falling for every scam under the sun. Those guys are just skinning you alive, taking all your money. So it becomes very difficult to even share that with them. So there's not a lot that you end up realizing that, I don't know if this relationship is going to get any better. It's now been quite a number of years, and it seems to be going down. And the person is very unhappy with their life. You can see they're physically unhappy. They're, whatever. There's lots of things going on in their life, and that it's not going well for them. So, it's really important to surround yourself with the right people, and to make the choices about the people who you surround yourself with. Okay, cool. Ben Al-Qadi, we might jump to you and just get a bit of an idea of what your morning looks like. I know you like to stay up late sometimes, but you tell us in your own words what your situation is.
Yeah, if you mean after I wake up, that's more like 9:30, 10:30. If you
midday, how do you do your day?
I normally end up staying up till about 2 on average, 4 on a reasonably late night. And you were talking about how productive you are when you get up at 6. I waste 3 hours if I get up at 6. If I get up at 10, I can actually be awake. I can do stuff straight away. And then in the middle of the night, I can get so much more done. I can actually focus. I'm much more of a night person. If I try and wake up at 6, it'll take me at least 2 weeks before my body clock realizes that I'm trying to get up at 6. I'll still be falling asleep at about 4.
Yeah, and there are people who work like that. I've got examples of that as well. A good friend of mine is probably one of the smartest people I know. I call him Einstein, and he's always up till very late in the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's just learning. He just doesn't stop researching and learning new things. So I get that, absolutely. So it's a time when no one's bothering you, right? You're able to just do what you want to do and concentrate.
Yeah, and I find it much easier to stay awake than to kind of get up, if you know what I mean. So rather than have to put the huge mental effort into wake up in the morning, I prefer to stay awake in the evening.
So how long has that been your routine for? Since you were a kid, or?
Oh yeah, since past 10 years, I guess.
Okay, for about 10 years, since you were like a young teen.
Yeah, around then.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Because obviously, when you're going to school, you probably couldn't stay up to 2 or 3 in the morning.
I couldn't get up as late as I wanted to.
So what do you sleep, about 7 hours, 6, 7 hours?
Normally about 6.
Okay, good, excellent. So there's a good example. See, I've always thought about sleeping 8 hours, and that's what I tend to go for most of the time. But 6 hours works fine, no problem.
8 would be nice.
Okay.
The main reason I don't sleep 8 is because I don't feel like I can get to sleep earlier, and I don't feel I have the option to get up later, because unfortunately the rest of the world doesn't agree that my sleep pattern is the best one.
Have you tried the opposite? Have you tried the 5 a.m. mornings?
Well, I used to do a paper round, and I had to get up at 6. Some more like 5:30.
Yeah.
And it just totally destroyed me. I did it for about 4 months, and I was going to bed at 10, and then 9, and then 8, and then 7. And that 10-hour window from 7 till 5 was still not enough for me to actually get to sleep, have a restful night, and wake up.
Yeah.
But it just totally turned me into a zombie. So I just thought, you know what, I am not a morning person. there's no point beating my head against this wall any longer for £20 a week.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. Well, I have to say that I've always been a morning person, I guess. Even though there were times when I was getting up at 8:30 in the morning, it was generally because I was doing late gigs, and so I kind of needed the sleep. But when things are normal, I would have definitely preferred getting up earlier. But I was for most of my life I was this kind of a 7 o'clock waker. That was my normal kind of waking time. But then when I met my wife, she's a very early riser. So that comes from her family, as I realized when I went and stayed with them in Japan. They all get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And apparently it's fairly normal in countries like Japan and Korea. It's part of the culture. Everybody gets up at 5 and 6 in the morning. I think, I don't know, I've always had the idea that in our culture, getting up around 7 is a normal time for most people, whereas in the Asian culture, getting up before the sun comes up is a fairly normal thing. So I guess it's probably what's normal for us and what's normal for them is probably based more on our history and the kind of, the work ethic and whatever. So, all right, so Let's move on. I think we've covered that. I just wanted to touch on that. I know that a couple of other guys are reading the book as well, so I just wanted to see what they got out of it and what their thoughts were. But yeah, we'll move on. Ben Messenger, do you have any questions, any topics that you want to jump into?
Yeah, Dave, I've got a delivery. It's just arrived. Can you go with Ben A first?
Come back to you in a minute. Ben Al-Qadi, over to you.
Not really, seeing as it's the last hangout. I'm just wondering about kind of dates for things. Do you reckon second week of January we'll be coming back online?
Yeah, it'll be. I've got the date on the page. Just have a look on the page, on the Facebook page. I think it's. Hang on.
Yeah. The hangout's back on the 13th.
Yeah. So I'll be back then. Yeah. Yeah. I'll be flying to Japan in that first week of January, the end of the first week, so there'll be a little bit of a shuffle over there, so hopefully all will go well. But as usual, yeah, if you've got any questions, you can throw them at me over the email or over the Facebook. I guess what we can do now then, just to sort of touch on another subject for a little bit, is to go into the plan, because you raised this topic last time, which I think was a good topic, and that was the marketing plan for the year, what you're going to do for the year, and what kind of things that we can sort of come up with. So have you, and I'll throw my ideas in a minute, but have you got any ideas on that you were thinking of for your planner, for your annual planner?
Well, definitely I'm probably stealing Ben's best idea from this list, but school fairs, summer fairs, and Christmas fairs, definitely. Maybe others. Ben would know, I bet, if they're more regular ones.
Yeah.
But it seems like every school does a Christmas fair, and the majority of schools do a summer fair. And Christmas fairs are often on the same day, so that's a bit annoying. But the summer fairs are probably spread out throughout June and July. So that's clearly a prime time to get some people in for the summer holidays.
Yeah. I think that if you can get a calendar and map out when those fairs are, then you can sort of put them in, and in between that, you could look at shopping centres, and even put yourself down with the shopping. Just find out when are the offers, the deals, because they do deals all the time, shopping centres. So if you can narrow it down and find out, and then work out a calendar. Sometimes they'll give you a deal. There are two types of deals. One of the last minute deals where they had someone they pulled out and they don't have them coming in, so they have a spare spot, and so they might ring you and give you a big discount to take the spot, because they've already taken a deposit off the other people, which means that they can give you a cheaper price, and they know maybe they can't get anyone in, so getting you in at a last minute can sometimes work. The other is when you give them a lot of notice. Sometimes that if you book months in advance, even if you book now for the middle of next year, sometimes they will give you a discount because it helps them to fill up their calendar and know that they've got certain people in. But it depends on the shopping centre and how they operate. But if you can look at that. So work out where the fairs are and the carnivals or whatever goes on, and plug into those first and look at the prices, and as well look at the traffic and the prices and the chances of booking in students, get a bit of an idea, and then in between that, so each month you're kind of aiming at something. Because I think if you really want to build your school and you want to do it in a relatively short period of time, I think the key to it is to get out there like a politician, get to the public and get talking to them, get to meet people. This is where again, it's about doing, and I think we spoke about this last time, was about doing live events, getting out in front of people, into live situations, has a very different feel about it. And this is why bands, most bands now, they wouldn't release an album without doing a tour. Most films don't get released without the main actors, going around the world and opening the film in famous cinemas. So having this idea of getting out into the public, I think it's the best way to build your business. And it's even something that I'm going to look at within G4, is to get out from behind my computer here and try and get to the UK and get to the US. Obviously I've done it in Australia because I'm based here a few times, but to try and get over to see you guys and get into the US as well and see the guys over there is my next plan once I'm established in Japan. And the great thing about Japan, it's more central. On a world scale, Japan is right in the middle of everywhere, so it should be easy. So yeah. So is there a big shopping centre near you, Ben?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, Kingston is actually the biggest kind of retail bit around this area. And there's a huge department store, John Lewis, and then the Bensall Centre is where the random other shops all grouped together into. But I don't remember anything ever happening in them apart from the Christmas thing, which would be kind of big animatronic bears and stuff.
Okay.
I can never imagine anyone doing, for example, guitar lessons just in the middle of the ground floor or something.
It might depend on the... Yeah.
Who else?
Done? Say again, that cut out.
I was saying, who else in G4 has done shopping centres?
Well, I did them quite a bit. A couple of the other guys, I'm just trying to think who else did them. A couple of the other guys have done them. Sorry.
I've done a couple, David.
You've done it, Ben, have you? Yeah, okay, great.
No, I've been round. What I found, just to grab the end of the conversation there, I've been round to all the local ones so far, and what you tend to find is a bit of a stonewall response as an individual. So the way round it is a few of the companies who do the bigger fairs have done their fairs within the shopping centre, and I've been part of that, and they've been the most successful ones I've done by far. But unfortunately, me going in by myself, they've sort of said, we've got to pass you through to a management company. So it's the guys who basically, the people who own, what I find, who own the floor space, the same guys who, clean the windows and take the bins out and do the security. So because they're not the shops, they're not interested. That's only my personal experience, but doing it as a group, if they found its bit, so you probably could look at maybe getting together with a few other people and seeing if almost make an event of it. Might be an idea, Ben, because I found going in by yourself is quite tricky.
So, what kind of fair is it? This group that you're going in with, is it kind of like a farmers market kind of thing, or more of a?
That's that sort of thing. Yeah, that kind of thing.
You feel you stick out a bit with the guitar?
Yeah, definitely amongst all the cheeses and the breads and the pies and the usual stuff. Yeah, definitely.
That's always good. Get some attention.
Yeah, but like I said, going into, and same as you, the shopping centre is based around John Lewis, and they basically fobbed me off and said, you've got to speak to John Lewis's central branch, and they started to, when I got through to them on the phone after being on hold for 3 weeks, they were talking about you having annual advertising packages, and clearly what they were after was your big blue chip companies, advertising, having a stand there and spending, £2,000 or £3,000 a week every single week in, 4 or 5 shopping centres in the area. They weren't interested in me coming along and saying, "Can I do one a month?" You know.
Yeah, totally.
But when I've done it as part of a group, we've done an event, it's worked really well.
I'll keep an eye out to see if any groups do that in my area, but I don't think they exist at the moment. There's a farmers market.
Like the farmers market type thing that you're looking for.
I'll see what I can do.
Keep researching, because the bottom line is that you want to get out in front of people. Think of it like gigs, doing gigs. You know, as an artist, if you're not out playing your music and you're not out, you know, people aren't hearing you, you're not going to get very far. And most music artists, the reason that they fail is not because their music's bad, or not because, you know, there's not opportunity. It's because they actually don't get out there and they don't follow through. They're just waiting to be discovered. You know, they're sitting in their lounge room hoping someone will ring them up and say, "I saw you on YouTube and you're just amazing. We want to give you a contract and take you around the world." That's how they think it happens. It might happen occasionally, but it's not generally when it happens. It's because you've already got a big following on YouTube, not because that suddenly, you know, some record company discovered you. And it's the same within any business, really. You've got to go out there. You've got to put yourself out there and get in front of people, talk to people about what you're doing, and it gradually builds and builds and builds. And that's where the momentum comes from, is that the more people that you can speak to, then the faster your business will grow. It's simple mathematics, really. So you're not necessarily looking for a shopping centre, but we just know that that's where people gather and where you're going to get in front of a lot of people. But anything where you can get, as you've already talking about, having the festivals and so forth, there's usually so much going on in any given area throughout the year that you'll find something at least once a month. Somewhere someone's doing something that'll help you to, you know, here in Cairns, it's, you know, almost every week they have something on where you can get involved in whatever it is. And you know, if I was running a guitar school here, because I never see them, they do a big parade here once a year, and the music store, which sells guitars, and they do some lessons, they have a float on the parade, and that's the only time I've ever seen anyone here musically of a teaching nature promote themselves. It's the only event, and there's events right throughout the year here that they could be involved in, but they only that particular shop only does that one event, and I don't see anybody else doing anything. So I know I could literally walk into an area like this, any area really, and very quickly become the notable guitar teacher in the area by getting involved in public events. You know, sometimes it can even be charity events where you can help to raise money for a charity, be part of the charity drive. Again, you're promoting yourself, but you're doing it. You're also raising money for a good charity. So, you know, and charities are the best events. You won't find anything better than charities, because they're always looking to raise money for their cause, and so they're always looking to put things on. And so, yeah, they're a really good option as well. So you can do things like, I don't know if you have them in the UK, but here in Australia we have these big hardware stores where, you know, people go there on the weekends and they buy tools and hammers and you know, nails and whatever they do, and they have like a sausage sizzle out the front sometimes, which is to raise money for a charity. Now, if you go to, if anyone could go to this, right? I could go there and I could say, okay, we want to do a sausage sizzle. We'll pay for the sausages. There's no rent, and you get to see everyone. And what you do is you sell sausages for a couple of dollars, and all the money goes to a charity. So all you do is you choose a charity, set up, and do it. But a lot of the guys who do it, the tents, their T-shirts, they're sponsored by companies. So a company is behind the actual setup, but the money that they raise all goes to the charity. So there's kind of this double, you know, idea where they're promoting themselves, but at the same time they're not trying to sell anything. So you don't do it to sell something. You promote your brand, but you don't sell something there and then. So there's so many ideas out there. It's really endless where you can get in front of people. But the idea, yeah, is to definitely try and get in front of people.
This all just sounds really good. I can't imagine seeing a barbecue outside of B&Q.
Whereabouts, sorry?
B&Q is one of the hardware stores around here, and it'd just be really weird if you came out with a pot of paint and there was someone cooking sausages.
That's the thing, is that and this is where Jay Abraham is brilliant. He takes the weird, and he leverages it, because what gets people's attention is the weird. If something is normal, then people tend to just walk past it. It's normal. I see that every day. But if it's something that's unusual, people will. Whoa. That's why, bands do weird things. They dress up in strange outfits, and you get these quirky songs that come out every now and again. That's like, wow, that's really bad, but wow, it's different. It's strange, but it's different. So yeah, if there's something that no one else is doing, especially if it's going on in countries like Australia, where it's normal here. Every hardware store here on a weekend, they have a sausage sizzle run by a charity out the front. So that's very, very normal. So it's something that obviously it's not going on in the UK. I'm not saying that you want to go to the effort of trying to set all this up, but it is something where if you had some sort of charity drive, then it's something. But that's just an idea. There are many, many ideas, Ben. We can sit here literally for hours, and I can keep giving you new ideas on ways to get you in front of people. Yeah.
Can you dig into you and tell me what you'd actually be doing? So with the sausage example, you're turning up with them. You're not doing that, are you? Or you say you could do that?
Yeah, you could do it. So, for example, what happens is you could say, here in Australia anyway, you go to the hardware store and all you have to say to them is that we're raising money for children with cancer. And they say, okay, great. And so they say, okay, here's the space you can set up, and you have to have a sign saying that all the proceeds go to children with cancer, and there has to be a legitimate charity behind it. But when you're there, for instance, there are local businesses that will run it, and they'll pay for it. They'll pay for all the sausages and everything. So in other words, it costs them for the sausages, and it costs them for their time to be there. But the rent space is free. So the hardware store's not charging them for the rent space. Just they have to pay for the setup, and then they have to give all the money they raise to a legitimate charity. But they're wearing their T-shirts that represent a certain company, and it helps to give them some promotion for their company. But the main drive of it, of course, has to be for the charity. It's the same. You can give away things to charities that run raffles, and so you could give a 5-week intro to any charities where you think you're going to get yourself in front of people. You give them a 5-week voucher where they can have 5 lessons, and then they use it in a raffle or a fundraising auction. Schools do it all the time. Ring every school in your area. One of the reasons Paul Andrews was so successful recently with his Open Day was because he went to the schools and he went and spoke to them, and he just put himself in front of them. And obviously Paul's very presentable, so it helps as well. But the idea is that he was out there, he was talking to people, and I'm quite sure in the process of that, some of the schools rejected him. Some of the schools probably said, yeah, whatever, we don't need that. We have guitar teachers here. He probably got some resistance as well, but he overall he won. He got himself in front of people. So it's really the old saying of the Gretzky saying of you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so it's the same within business. You miss 100% of the opportunities that you don't take. So that's pretty well the bottom line.
Yeah. So for the schools, giving the vouchers sounds brilliant, easy, no extra work apart from talking to them. I don't think I'll be going for the sausage sizzle straight away, especially mid-winter. But maybe that'd be a good idea for summer. And then if we do end up going into a fair or a farmer's market, Ben, what did you actually do? Are you back from your delivery?
Yeah, I was just there. If it was a decent weather, so the sort of May, June, July, August, September ones, I'd set up and set chairs out and have kids having free guitar lessons. On a couple of times when either I couldn't be there or it was terrible weather, I'd just be handing out flyers and speaking to people.
Cool. So were you always allowed to do the playing?
Yeah.
It was just
every single time, Ben, without fail, and I did over the last 12 months, I've done probably one a month, maybe 14 over the course of the year, every single time. This with a couple of different companies. They've all said, we've never had anything like that before, so brilliant. Come along.
And Bleep back, yeah.
Guitar teachers.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is that guitar teachers they're almost shy. I don't know how to explain it, but guitar teachers tend to hide. They're not out there, and so the opportunity is huge. I've never had a problem. That's why, you know, when I talk about this, it's like I can walk into any area and have more students than I can possibly handle in no time, because the students are out there. The teachers just aren't putting themselves out there. The teachers will make a website, but that's it. That's where it ends, with a website. They don't go beyond that. So, yeah, the opportunity is huge. Do what everybody else is not doing. The secret to success is do what everyone else is not prepared to do. That's really the bottom line to succeeding in anything. So, yeah. The Beatles were prepared to go to Hamburg in the freezing cold. Was it Hamburg? I think it was Germany anyway.
It was Hamburg, wasn't it, originally?
Yeah. So, you know, they were prepared to go there, you know, and do the gigs in the freezing cold often, you know, again and again and again, and play those very long gigs and under, you know, sometimes very scary conditions. I think they were, you know, I think it was a pretty rough area where they were playing, and they did it for years, and so they were prepared to do what most guys wouldn't do. Most guys would have quit after a few months, but not the Beatles.
Yeah, watching a documentary the other night, a bit of a sidetrack, but I just love the idea that they went and did this, you know, before they were any good. And you have Paul McCartney saying he didn't use the words paid rehearsal, but that's what he was getting at. When the promoter turned up and said, I'm sorry guys, there's one man and his dog in tonight, and unfortunately 2 other bands have cancelled, you're on for 6 hours, the Beatles would go, great, and they just play the same 10, 12 songs for 6 hours. And to them it was all worthwhile, and they play it to the guy behind the bar and nobody else. But then you hear John Lennon say that that's how he met Chuck Berry, and that's how he met Little Richard. So these guys travelling much further than the Beatles were, and doing the same crap gigs, but getting the experience.
That's it. That's it.
And the idea the Beatles turned up back in Liverpool and were all of a sudden amazing, and people are like, who are these guys? It's like, they're from Liverpool. They've just been away for 8 months a year, you know, rehearsing in Germany. Yep.
And it was their, it wasn't even their musical talent. It was their stage presence. Do you know what I mean? They had so much stage experience, and they were used to playing. When you do that, because I did those gigs. I remember, you know, when we were quite young, and you're playing to audiences of, you know, 2 or 3 people who would prefer you didn't play half the time. It's very hard to do that night after night after night and not get depressed about it. And so for the Beatles, there's actually, and I'll give a great example here. There's and most of the top American comedians have been through it. There's a club in the US. I think it's maybe LA. And what they do is that they put him in front of an audience where the audience is not allowed to laugh at any of their routine. So they fill up the room, and these people are all, you know, they've all been told that you're not allowed to laugh at any of their jokes. And the idea is for the comedians to get toughen up, to be able to do a whole routine in front of a room where they don't clap, don't laugh, don't give any positive comments, and even boo and hiss at them. So it toughens you up. It gets you prepared for the worst case scenario, so that you can handle it. And then when you go into rooms, and that's why you look at these comedians and you think, oh, nobody's laughing. They must be cringing inside. But they're not. They're used to it. They've conditioned themselves for it, and that's really what the Beatles did. They conditioned themselves to play, give a full show, a full effort in front of any audience. And I think that's a lot to do with it. And that's where you, Ben, now you're going out and you're doing these, presentations, so to speak, and you're doing them regularly. Once a month. You must be, am I right? You must be getting pretty comfortable with it now.
Give me an example. Christmas market, so absolutely huge. The entire town turns out for it. 2 weekends ago. 35-mile-an-hour winds, and I booked in 3 people, 2 of which both said, "Oh, we came last time, but we didn't have chance." So, and they didn't even, obviously, this really bad weather, no one came and played, but 2 of the 3 people said, "We saw you last time, didn't have chance, can I get a Christmas voucher?" So although it was an absolute waste of a day, when it should have been one of the best days I'd had, in terms of the number of people, it was still worthwhile being there, because I picked up people who'd seen me last time, or one of the guys seen the flyer and thought he'd just nipped down, recognised the banner, and bought a gift voucher. And that was a bad day. And then go back to, I remember June, July, one of the ones I did was in a shopping centre. I booked in 8 people in a day.
Okay. Brilliant.
So it balances out over the year. Like I said to you, although I'm still out doing the flyers, I reckon we're at least 50-50. Let's have a quick look on the stats. Yep, the markets are up there, 45, 50, 52%. Yeah, the majority of, just over half of my inquiries are coming from on the back of these markets. And even on the back of that, people will come in and say, "I've got your flyer, but oh yes, I did see you at the market 6 months ago, or I did see you at the school fair last year."
Yeah, they're putting the 2 together now, starting to,
definitely.
And that you look at that year you've had, right? You look at 2015 and you look at what you've done, and you go, well, look, I've grown this much. So next year, if I keep doing the same thing, I can expect similar growth. Okay, but the reality is you'll probably get a bit more, because you're going to get what you did this year, the interest of this year, as I call it. So the 2015 effort that you put in is still, it still hasn't fully matured. It's going to fully mature over the next couple of years, right? So you're adding to that. So you can expect a bigger year in your second year of this marketing. But you also know what's working, so you can even increase your output as far as your effort to your marketing. And it doesn't mean that you physically have to do more. You can pay someone, because now you've got the cash flow, you've got more money coming in, so you can you know what I mean. You can take someone with you to do the flyers, take 2 people to do the flyers, so you can start to up your campaign if you want. But you're also going to get, because I know that with you, Ben, we've spoken a few times, I know that with your students, you don't lose many students, and you're very conscientious about every student. So because of, and I think this is really important, keeping your dropout rate low and keeping your marketing consistent so that you can see the growth. That's what you want. It's got to be this, otherwise you get lazy, and things fall apart. Yeah, and that's it's really, I think the biggest thing that happens to most people, and I've been guilty of it in the past, is you get comfortable. Things start to really flow, because what you experience now is, and again, if we go back to the Beatles example, Beatles' success was not, the song that they wrote in 1950, whatever. Their success was the years of preparation leading up to it. All that work they'd done, now they were reaping the rewards of that. So, if you get lazy, and they were smart enough, or they had the right management to understand that, you guys have got to keep the momentum going. If you don't keep the momentum going, you're not going to become the biggest band in the world, the biggest band in history, really. The same applies with your business, is that you can get into that second year, and a lot of bands do this, and that's why we hear a lot of bands one-hit wonders, or whatever happened to that band. They were really big in 1985. Now they're nothing, and the reason is they have a hit song, or they do really well because the year before they worked really hard, they got some airplay, and they started to build up an audience, and then the next year they go, we're rock stars, yay, we don't have to work anymore, we don't have to do anything. But that goes very quickly. It's out, the next year, because they didn't do anything that year, then the following year down they go. There's some luck involved in things, of course. I'm not saying that it's purely effort, but I don't think you can rely on luck. Luck is luck. But you can rely on your effort, and by putting in the right amount of effort. So you're on track, Ben. I put my money on you. I'd buy shares in your company, because you definitely heading in the absolute right direction. And I think, you might want to replay this to your lovely wife-to-be, that, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to be very well set up. You're going to be very comfortable. So, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing.
I was chatting to Emma about this the other week, and I guess I'm getting at the point where I'm getting a little bit impatient. Like, it should be happening now, but then you've got to realise that less than 12 months ago, what we're talking 8 months ago, I was still doing a normal job and deciding whether this was going to work. I still had the option of going back to teaching in the music school and everything would be all right. So in a fairly short, I've got to realise that in a fairly short time, I'm not hitting, 70, 80, 100 students yet, but it's still in a fairly short time. I've got something that's sustainable, and now it can only go, if I carry on the way I have been, only go one way. But it may be a further year, 18 months before I really go, wow, hang on, this is really good.
Yep. And it's I can add to that too, because there are a couple of things I'll add to it. Number one is that you've been learning how to be an entrepreneur. Prior to this, you're already a guitar teacher, so that came, you brought that to the table. But what you're learning to do is to be an entrepreneur, and so you're really at entrepreneurial school. You're still studying, so this is just really your year of learning, and you got another year. You of course you're going to keep on learning, but you're going into next year much smarter, much more experienced. You know where to put your time and energy. You know how to do things better. So you've got that to add to it. But the other thing is that we've actually been, and I think most people understand this these days, especially in Europe, we've been in probably the toughest economical time in my lifetime. The recessions are worldwide. You've got countries that are going broke in Europe, like Greece and Cyprus, and countries like Italy and Spain, which are in huge trouble. Even the UK is in a lot of trouble. So you've got this world recession going on. The banks are spilling out lots of cash to try and keep things afloat. But it's looking good now. It's starting to look like we're turning the table. And apparently tomorrow morning, the Federal Bank in the US is going to announce interest rates are going from 0% up. So they're going to increase interest rates, which really is an indicator that they feel things have turned as well, that we're now moving into where things are starting to improve. And so, I think if you've been able to build a business during this tough time, then when we've been through the winter, so to speak, because these things do go in cycles, and we're starting to move into spring, I think you're going to really see things start to happen, because what happens is people become more confident. They're not so worried about things, the doom and the gloom, so they start to spend more money, the economy starts to move, and that creates lots of things that happen, and those businesses that survive through the tough times are the ones that thrive in the good times. It's the ones built in the good times that often don't survive the winter, if you like. So yeah, so I think it's looking really good. Any last comments, guys? Wrap it up there, the last one for the year. Excellent. All right, so I'm just going to switch off, guys. Don't go yet. I'm just going to stop the broadcast.